Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Management, a VUCA perspective. We are discussing core concepts and we are now at module 31. I am your friend and tour guide on this amazing, exhilarating, fun and immersive journey, Siddhi Bhattacharyya. Now, in the words of Seth Godin, you are not being judged. The value of what you bring to the table is being judged, and this is typically what is very, very true for marketing as well. Seth Godin, one of the most eminent voices when it comes to marketing and business strategy, has been very, very pivotal in getting people to understand how to contribute better and the value creation therefore. And the value which is closely held at the center of all sorts of marketing comes out to the fullest through marketing communications, and that is precisely where we are trying to figure out the audiences and how to get the messaging across in the best possible way. And this is the second part in that series. Profiling is where consumers really are and how to understand who they are, how to get a certain glimpse of their lifestyles is what marketers are always trying for, and this helps map the consumer to the brand. This helps understand consumer profiles and helps in creating the path to link master brand planning frameworks for messaging accuracy. That is the progress journey where we are today. And here we target audience definition and crafting the communications message, which is the second part of the journey. Now, when we get into audience profiling, what do we understand by that is that we try and understand who are the audience, understand where they are coming from. We have already discussed the various factors that build that particular profile, but those profiles and those specific aspects that we build in at the outset, they seem just facts and figures. So, how do we create somebody who we understand, almost like how we understand another human in our entire set of references? So, understanding the audience is the cornerstone of effective communication, and here in today's rapidly evolving digital landscape, no amount of generic messaging will work anymore, and consumers will only be captivated when they actually get personalized experiences. This is what they expect, and these need to be tailored to their specific needs and preferences. We have already talked about how things are evolving and how the age of AI and immersive experiences is coming about, especially in the metaverse and other spaces like that. Here we understand the art and science of audience profiling and how to segment the audience, understand their unique characteristics and craft messages that resonate very, very deeply with these audiences. We have looked at current best practices and emerging trends as we go along and understand how these are reshaping the marketing and communications professionals identify and connect with their target audiences. Now, when we look at the audience profiling landscape, we have already discussed this STP profile. The basic is data foundation. Here we collect meaningful customer insights, and from the insights we get into the audience segmentation aspect, where we characterize these by shared traits of that particular audience, and then we give hyper personalized messaging, which is the precision targeting aspect of it. So, effective audience building and profiling needs a solid foundation of data collection and analysis to begin things, and here marketers need to develop detailed segments based on shared characteristics. We have already talked about cohorts turning into tribes, and these in turn allow for precision targeting with tailored messages, and that actually resonates with these specific groups. The result is communication that feels made for measure, made for that individual and therefore personal, rather than it is something which just is a band-aid version and sticks to everybody. So, it is not generic, and it gives you better, stronger connections between the brands and the intended audiences. Now, why audience profiling matters? Because preferences grow. About 80% of consumers prefer brands that understand their specific unique needs. Always remember that the human condition asks for a certain response, and that response is in the form of this question. A very famous question which says, what's in it for me? Everybody is asking this exact question, and that is what the brand has to resolve. If you can answer this suitably, you will see engagement going up, because 42% react with better personalized content. In terms of ROI, you will see it go up with 38% increased return on marketing investment with targeted campaigns. This is what industry benchmarks and standards are moving towards, and about 3.5 times better conversion as well, because messaging matching audience profiles will try and achieve that kind of a click. Now, the numbers tell a compelling story. Audience profiling isn't just that nice to have, and it is essential for marketing success, and organizations investing in understanding their audience and seeing significant improvements across all key performance indicators, from initial engagement to final conversion and long-term brand loyalty, therefore, is something which marketers pursue every day. Now, we have looked at demographic segmentation. We understand where Gen Z was. They were born between 97 and 2012, millennials between 81 and 96. Beyond them, you had Gen X and baby boomers. You now have Gen Alpha and Beta. These are the newest generations which are doing the rounds. Now, it is becoming more and more problematic because attention spans are dropping, and there is an overload of information which children of today are now exposed to, and the devices and interaction points through which all of that data, all of that information is hitting them square. So, for them to make sense of imagery, messages, conversations, etc., becomes that much more challenging. Lack of media was something which helped Gen X and baby boomers be more brand loyal and pragmatic, and these generations appreciated detailed information which was presided in content and delivered through traditional channels like email, print, television, what have you. But thereafter, millennials came about who wanted personalized, value driven messaging that aligned with their lifestyle aspirations and social values. And finally, there came Gen Z, who were the last accounted for, where they were completely born in the digital space. So, they were digital natives and preferred short term content, visuals and interactive messaging, and valued authenticity, social responsibility and peer influence in brand communications, because they wanted to feel part of that community within themselves. Now, demographic segmentation helps categorize audiences based on measurable attributes such as age, gender, income level, education, occupation, marital status, the list goes on. And these factors provide fundamental insights into guiding basic messaging strategies and channel selection of where these people are to be found and how to address them. Now, when it comes beyond basic demographics, you want to look at gender based insights here. While avoiding stereotypes, you need to understand that there are very subtle gender differences, and if you count these in, then communication preferences can be bettered and they can help you fine tune your messaging. And gender inclusive language ensures all audience members feel represented and valued, because you are keeping their wishes in mind. Then there are socio-economic factors. Your income, your education levels significantly influence the kind of ability to influence your purchase behavior and your media consumption patterns also, therefore. And there are value propositions that resonate with certain different chunks of the socioeconomic ladder. Luxury brands require different messaging than value oriented offerings. So, these are aspects which need to be very, very clearly understood by the marketers. Also, The cultural background is important because these nuances will offer how the messages are received and interpreted, and effective communications will acknowledge and respect these cultural differences in values, traditions, communication styles. So, which part of the world you are from, your race, your ethnicity, your civilizational traits, and maybe even language. So, all these factors start to come and play within the messaging spectrum. Now, advanced demographic profiling therefore goes beyond basic categories and incorporates an intersectional understanding of how various demographic factors interact with the end consumer, and this nuanced approach enables more sophisticated messaging strategies and acknowledges the complexity of individual identities and still benefits from the demographic patterns. So, it needs a better probing within the particular space and trying to cull it down to the final level, where you are creating an insight that is gleaned from all these inputs from the consumer end. Where walks in psychographics, because psychographics actually gives you a clear pathway into the human mind. Here there are various kinds of aspirational consumers who are motivated by upward mobility, success and lifestyle improvement, and they actually take well to aspirational messaging and status oriented value propositions. And then there are certain who are socially conscious individuals. Here they look at ethical considerations, sustainability and things that keep the world green and happy. So, these brands prefer strong social and environmental values, and these need to be clearly communicated. Brand identities making sense to a certain specific kind of consumer needs to have that kind of marriage of minds, and so therefore, the messaging becomes the medium for the communication to happen. There are certain ones who are experiential seekers. They value their experiences over material possessions, and they are better with adventure driven messaging and emotional storytelling. And then finally, some are security oriented. So, they value the stability, the safety, the risk averseness in decision making, and want messaging that emphasizes reliability and trust. Also understand that different brands selling different products or services each need to have their own brand personas, and brand personas can move into any of these spaces, because these spaces actually cover the kind of positioning that the brand itself wants to project. So, the psychographic segmentation gives you personality traits, values, interests, lifestyles and aspects that drive consumer behavior as well, and helps you craft emotionally resonant messages that align with the worldview of the audience and their internal motivations, what keeps them going, what makes them take a decision, and that helps you create deeper connections. With just the demographics is not enough, you will have to get deeper into the minds of the consumer. So, when you segment consumers behaviorally, you will see that there are certain ones who are early adopters. They are people who embrace innovation and often influence broader market adoption, but they also keep moving from one trend to the other as long as there is novelty in it. Then there are discount seekers who are motivated primarily by promotions, sales and value deals, and so they only seek the thrift part of the entire engagement. There are certain ones who are impulse buyers who make spontaneous decisions given by the urgency and emotional connect which you are able to drive within the messaging. And then there are loyal customers, people who are brand advocates and engage deeply and expect to be treated like stars and VIPs. So, then you have various ways to look at various segments in terms of the behavior that people exhibit. Behavioral segmentation focuses on actual consumer actions rather than just the attributes or attitudes, and analyzing purchase habits, brand interactions, product usage patterns, marketers can give you messaging strategies based on observed behaviors, what customers will do rather than who they are, what they say and what kind of things they hold dear to themselves. So, these provide highly actionable insights because it is based on real world interactions and directly impacts business results as well. So, once you have all these, you will also want your communication to not splurge and make a waste out of it when you apply it on media. So, hence geographic segmentation is also important, because if a brand is not available, but your ad is, people may get excited about the product, go out, look for it and not find it in stores or shelves. And so, therefore, the geographic segmentation ensures that the media play is actually diverted to the necessary places where you have your particular distribution setup. So, urban versus rural consumers is one way. Audiences who have greater access to diverse media platforms in urban audiences can be segregated from the retail options, where rural consumers may rely heavily on traditional media like radio and print. So, this differentiation is important. Also, with the advent of digital, you can do this very, very precisely. Then there are regional preferences which affect the cultural nuances, local dialects, regional traditions and communication effectiveness should follow that particular line of thought. Here, you need to reflect regional references. If there are any holidays, you should consider those, and speech patterns, so that you do not feel out of place as a brand. And this will dramatically improve audience connection and message relevance, obviously. Then climate based segmentation, because there are weather and seasonal patterns which influence consumer needs and behaviors and drive a certain sense of immediacy or urgency as well. So, you need to acknowledge that seasonal challenges or opportunities specific to a region showcase that you as a brand understand that nature well and are putting up something that is relevant to the audience's immediate environmental needs. So, you have to keep those in mind, and this will help you recognize that physical location shapes consumer needs, preferences and behavior patterns, which will automatically get translated when you put out the apt messaging for them. Now, then there is technographic segmentation, because people lie at different levels of tech capability. Some are very, very savvy. So, they are tech savvy users, they are early adopters typically and embrace cutting edge digital trends and platforms. They are comfortable and mostly they are digital natives as well. Some are mobile first consumers, because that is the only technology that they want to work with, and they primarily engage through their smartphones, requiring optimized mobile content. Traditional media users are different, and they are consumers who take in stuff through television, print and radio over digital platforms. They typically tend to be an older audience. And then there are omnichannel multi-device users who engage across multiple platforms and need that omnichannel experience also to follow them around. So, in an increasingly digital world, you need to understand how your audience interacts with technology, and this is essential for effective message delivery. Technographic segmentation examines the devices, platforms, digital behaviors of your audience and puts out not just what to say, but where and how to deliver your message, because remember, it is a 50-50 game. 50% is your media choice. You may have a great message, but if your message is not seen by the audience, then it is like a ship in the night. And if your message is not apt, then it is a damp squib. It will never strike home and create the necessary impact. Now, when we put all of these pieces of information together, we are trying to structure a consumer portrait in front of us, which is what we call consumer pen portraits, and we try and bring the audience to life. The intent here is to help strategists, marketers, creative people and various other organizational individuals to understand the life and times of the consumer better. You create visual representations. Why is a visual representation important? Because a visual representation has a lot of sublime information which cannot be conveyed just by writing a word or two. So, here you develop visual profiles and bring audience segments to life with images, quotes, key attributes, etc. You develop rich backstories. These are important to actually showcase some amount of imagined empathy for the consumer. Why is this important? Because then only will you be able to imagine and create comprehensive narratives which give you life goals of the consumer, the challenges that they are facing on a daily day, and the routines that keep them busy day in and day out. Here you need to corroborate and incorporate real data so that ground personas in actual research data, customer interviews and behavioral analytics are mapped to the imagined pen portraits, and there is a synergy between the two. That is when you will know that the imagined audience is actually out there to be tapped into. And yes, you need to regularly update your profile by reviewing and revising your personas, because audience behaviors keep shifting, preferences keep evolving. So, it is best to keep it in real time. Consumer pen portraits are also called personas, and these transform the abstract data into relatable human profiles by giving them name, face, shape, activities, behaviors, life story and goals, objectives, desires and fears. So, you create these detailed representations of your audience segments and you create that imagined empathy and understanding that informs more authentic, relevant messaging, because that is when once you have got authenticity coming into play, then your messaging becomes that much more impactful and real for this audience. These portraits should be living documents and evolve as you get more and more insights through research and as consumer behavior is observed to shift over time. Now, let us look at certain examples here. So, let us meet Ria, the digital nomad. She is a Gen Z. What is her role at work? So, by work profile, she is a freelance graphic designer. What is her age? She is 24. And how is her career moving along? She is earning through project based work while traveling, because traveling, adventure are things that enrich her life experience, but she also needs to complete her passion and get money in the bank, so food on the table. So, she gets her project based work, she is balanced it, she balances her work and her passions of traveling. She values the flexibility and creative freedom above the job security or traditional career paths which other people may choose. Now, this is where her passionate interests come in. Here she puts travel first and foremost, sustainable fashion because she is environmentally aligned, she has social activism in her mind, and digital art is the expression that she uses to get her point across. Now, social platforms showcase both her work and advocate for causes that she believes in. So, that is her expression to the world, and her communication preferences could be Insta, TikTok, YouTube, and she prefers short engaging video content with strong visual appeal and interactive elements where she utilizes the technology to the fullest. Ria represents the digitally native Gen Z segment who prioritize experiences, authenticity and social responsibility, location independent lifestyle and creative as a profession. So, her media consumption and purchasing decisions also follow through from exactly that point. Communications which target Ria should be visually striking, they should be concise and demonstrate genuine alignment with values like sustainability and social justice, because these matter to her. Similarly, if there is another gentleman, Amit, who is the corporate climber, is from the millennial batch, has a professional identity, or as a 32-year-old mid-level executive at a fintech firm, is ambitious and career focused. Now, he would probably have key interests like personal finance because he is very invested in his career, he wants his career to grow, he is looking around and networking, and productivity wise he wants to optimize himself, he wants to add more skills, he wants to showcase that he is great at his work. The media channels that he is frequenting are LinkedIn, email newsletters, business podcasts and specialized industry platforms because he wants to stay up to date. His content preferences are professional, informative and data driven content with clear action points, because he wants to take whatever he receives in the form of data and implement them in his life. So, Amit exemplifies the upwardly mobile millennial professional who values efficiency and growth. The content he consumes revolve around professional development and staying ahead in his line of work. And communications wise, Amit should emphasize expertise, provide actionable insights and demonstrate how products or services can optimize his productivity or career trajectory. If you notice, each of these people have been asking the question of what's in it for me, and this is the attempt to answer that what's in it for me quandary. He appreciates well researched content so that he does not have to, somebody gives him pre-packaged well researched content, but is also posited very, very intelligently, because he is able to make sense of things. So, he wants his intelligence and time constraints to be respected and delivered via data visualization and executive summaries, so that he is able to get all the content and understand the meaning of it in a summarized form, because he wants to just consume the data and then action it as he goes forward. Now, then there is Meena. Let us say she is a family oriented homemaker who is a Gen X. She is a 45-year-old stay at home parent and whose primary identity centers around her family's well-being and home management, and she makes most of her household purchasing decisions by herself. She is empowered enough. She has core interests, but home improvement is a primary set of duties, health and wellness for family and her children's education, and family meal planning is what take up her entire day. Her values are traditional, while she also keeps embracing modern conveniences, which she finds very, very helpful. In the digital engagement space, she uses primarily Facebook and WhatsApp groups, because this allows her to connect with people she follows or people who are similar to her, so that she can have a peer-to-peer conversation. And this also helps her connect with family and community. She watches TV during evening hours and browses online between household tasks. The phone is always her constant companion throughout the house. And Meena represents a family focused Gen X segment who balance their traditional values with practical modern approaches. So, both things get balanced. She is digitally competent, but she is not like, if I do not have tech then I will die, and she uses digital tools very, very judiciously and serves her family oriented priorities very, very as her primary. And messaging for Meena should emphasize what is concerning her most, the family benefits, the trustworthiness, because she cannot deal with anything that will shortchange anything for her family, and it needs to be practical because she manages her household, and it should ideally be delivered through established platforms because trustworthiness, and she already has used them, so that comfort is also there. Now, this is also again to showcase how you can tap into Meena's mindset. Different mindsets have different input points and different messaging types. Then you got Rajesh, who is a retired professional who was a baby boomer at a point in time. He is a 62-year-old retired government officer, and he is now newfound free time and fixed income which comes from his pension. He values the stability, respect and maintaining connections with his community. He has had some experience because of his government service, and so he carries that particular aura along into his post retirement days. His primary interests would be spirituality, current affairs, community service and spending time with grandchildren. He enjoys sharing his expertise and experience with others, and that is how he keeps himself busy and contributes to the people around him. His media habits primarily still is information through print, radio programs and traditional television channels. He does not use much of DTH. He checks email because he has fallen into that habit from his work days, but social media he uses sparingly, it just takes up a small amount of his time. Rajesh exemplifies the traditional baby boomer segment, and they prefer established media channels and values detailed factual information, and his media consumption happens at very predictable times because his life is structured around that kind of order. The morning newspaper comes in, the evening news comes in, and he appreciates communications that again respect his intelligence and life experience. And effective messaging for Rajesh should be straightforward, substantive, and delivered through traditional channels with proper context and detailed information, so he can consume and then develop his own opinion about it. Now, there is Pooja, who is the budget shopper or a discount seeker. Now, Pooja is a 29-year-old teacher living in a mid-sized city. She earns a modest income but manages money carefully and maintains her desired lifestyle. She is highly price conscious but still quality aware. Her primary motivation is maximizing value from whatever she gets into. Her shopping style is, before getting into any purchase, she researches extensively and then only buys anything. Her decision factor is price to quality ratio. So, she mentally makes that assessment before taking on any product purchase. Digitally, she is active in price comparison apps. She goes to coupon sites and cashback programs, and she subscribes to multiple deal newsletters and follows sale announcements on social media, because that is precisely where she wants the communication to come from. She prefers WhatsApp for sharing the deals with friends and family, because within her interactions she gets a lot of inputs and in turn she shares her as well. And so, she checks her e-commerce platforms for flash sales and seasonal discounts. The messaging approach for Pooja would be to target and emphasize values, saving and smart shopping. She has limited time offers and exclusive deals in her sites, but she maintains focus on quality and durability to address her concern for lasting value. Now, each of these is a microcosm in itself. If as a strategic planning thinker, you want to expand upon the particular pen portrait, you can add more nuance, and the more nuance is there, the better you are able to have that imagined empathy and walk a mile or two in their lives and see what are their pains and their trials and tribulations which they are facing. And Pooja represents a behavioral segment which is defined by shopping habits rather than demographic factors alone, and her approach to purchasing is methodical and value driven, making her responsive to communications that acknowledge her financial savvy. So, these are ways the communication shifts with the audience type. And then there is Vikram, who is a tech enthusiast. He is an early adopter. He has a tech forward lifestyle. He is a 27-year-old software engineer who embraces cutting edge technology in all aspects of life. He is an early adopter and influences his peers' tech purchasing decisions because he keeps himself abreast of all these trends. He has an interest ecosystem. He is passionate about emerging tech, gaming, crypto, technical problem solving, and he keeps values, innovation, performance and staying ahead of mainstream trends as his core ideologies. In terms of digital engagement, he is very active on Reddit. He goes to YouTube to understand a lot of concepts in detail. He is active on Twitter where he voices his opinion, and he has specialized tech forums where he either listens in, maybe somewhere or the other he also contributes. So, he consumes content voraciously across multiple devices simultaneously, and he's fallen into the entire rhythm of being able to juggle, and he experiments with new platforms early and gets to know which ones to keep, which ones to throw away, and he's got his communication preferences in the form of a data rich, technically sophisticated content format that respects his expertise. He has that in-depth technical specification and comparative analysis format when he looks at any piece of information. Now, early adopter Vikram has the drive of initial adoption of new technologies and platforms, and his technical knowledge is such that he shapes his expectations for communication. He wants depth of information, accuracy and authenticity, including sources where it comes from, and marketing to Vikram requires technical precision and genuine innovation to excite him. And it is not simply claiming to be cutting edge, because pure wordplay will not cut ice with Vikram. Now, how do you craft targeted messaging across all of these things? You have to have some sort of a methodology, a framework. So, first and foremost, the core is to have an audience specificity. You tailor your content to address unique needs, values and pain points of each target segment. Then you have to understand that you have to resonate with that audience. So, emotionally, whatever their thought processes are, even if they are making rational decisions, there is a certain emotion at the back of it which needs to be sufficed as well. So, connect with both the rational and emotional drivers so that you motivate, because the task of the messaging is to motivate. So, that is precisely where you need to land with it. There is a choice of media, so hence the channel appropriateness also impacts, and you optimize your messaging format and style for each platform where your audience engages, and you have to have a consistent core identity. You can't be adventure seeking one day and fun and frolic loving the other, and serious and very stoic the next. So, you have to have something which gives you a certain kind of look and feel. The brand authenticity therefore helps you to adapt your presentation for different segments, but you need to maintain who you are as an individual. You may exhibit the necessary kinds of posturing for each, but at the core as a brand, your tenor, your flavor will stay the same, so that you are identified for who you are and consumers can relate with you depending even on where you are and who you are speaking with. So, effective messaging begins with deep understanding of your audience, but does not end there. The art of targeting communication requires balancing segment specific relevance with brand consistency, emotional appeal, factual support, platform optimization, and yes, cross channel coherence. You have to be appearing as the same individual across, and that is how you will be trusted. This is at a very deep seated level in the human consciousness. So, how do you create personalized messaging strategies? You create AI powered personalization for each particular segment. You leverage machine learning algorithms to analyze the customer data and deliver dynamically personalized content. Modern AI tools can predict content preferences, optimal send times and even emotional states to maximize the message impact. They can tell you predictively what content recommendations can be used, dynamic email personalization, and give you behavioral trigger messaging as well. When you look at the segmentation, go a little deeper, develop multidimensional segments and combine demographic, psychographic and behavioral factors. That way you cover more ground, and this nuanced approach allows for precise targeting rather than a very poor single dimensional segmentation, which gives you a very myopic lensing capability. Go micro so that you are able to define more segments. You have got the AI and segmentation capabilities to define it better for you, and you can do cross category behavioral analysis and life stage versus values mapping also. Why is this important? Because with digital becoming the mainstay, there are infinite number of ad sets you can create and throw it at infinite number of audiences and see which works. The moment you are able to test before you run a full campaign, you are able to actually see which is warming up to your audience selection, and that automatically gives you an edge to fine tune your communication, whether it be the visual, whether it be the copy, whether it be the video versus static selection, whether it be a piece to camera, whether it be a montage. All of these aspects help you define the messaging and the format, and then also the choice of media. So, you can choose where you are getting the best return on investment and choose to spend there with your budgets. Content wise, you can personalize things and create modular content that can be dynamically assembled based on individual user profiles, and this balances scalability with efficient content production. So, you can create modular content blocks, you can have dynamic image selection and personalized call to action buttons or inputs or join a group or whatever end objective you have in mind. And this helps today's consumers expect, because they expect hyper personalized communication, and 80% prefer brands that understand their specific needs. So, modern personalization goes beyond simple inserting a name into an email. It requires you to give the right rich message with the right tonality at the right time when they are most all right with reading your email and through the right channel and based on comprehensive audience understanding. So, email is just an example. You can do it through social media, you can do it through content and various other ways, but you have to ensure that you are making the right noises. And finally, the emotional appeal, where you are connecting through a certain feel, because here you have to give people a reason to buy. So, hence aspirational messaging works. Audiences motivated by achievement and status create content that connect your brand to the vision of an improved future self, where you are actually giving them hope, hope of what can be. So, what is to be expected going further. Then there is purpose driven storytelling, which is for socially conscious consumers and emphasizes your brand values and impact of the same. Authentic stories about sustainability initiatives, ethical practices and community involvement also work with this segment very, very well. Then there is security and trust narratives. Here, whosoever is fearful of risk and wants to avoid it, you focus on the reliability aspects, proven results and safety of being partnered up with you. You give testimonials, you give guarantees and you give long standing brand heritage and create a certain assurance that you are somebody who is bankable, and that reduces the perceived risk in their minds. Psychographic insights allow marketers to move beyond functional benefits and create emotionally resonant images and messages. Research shows that emotional response to an ad has 3 times more influence on the purchase intent than rational content alone, because the emotion is something which triggers a response within us. By understanding emotional drivers of different audience segments, you can craft messages that connect on a very, very deeper level. Now, multi-platform communication strategy wise, TikTok at times works best. India does not have too much of TikTok, but internationally speaking TikTok is doing fairly well. Next up is Instagram, because this is by far the widest and most prolific audience today, and this is the Gen Z and later, and even the millennials are on it pretty much. Then you have got YouTube, because that is content rich and for learning something new. Emails are typically part of work life. LinkedIn is a very close second after email, because it is also similar. Facebook has lost its sheen somewhat and has receded as the principal. Different audience segments engage with different platforms, requiring a diversified approach to message distribution. This chart shows average engagement rates across platforms, but these numbers vary significantly by industry and audience segment. So, this gives you a general sense of how things are, but it can change. Now, amongst these, Gen Z and millennials typically engage more actively on visual platforms like Insta, TikTok, YouTube, etc. Gen X and baby boomers often prefer Facebook, LinkedIn and email. A successful multi-platform strategy adapts both content format and messaging style and matches the platform expectations, ensuring that you have consistent brand positioning throughout. Now, when you look at platform specific communication approaches, on Insta you will find more Gen Z and millennials. You will be giving them visual stories, reels, aesthetic feeds, etc. and the tone and style be authentic, visually driven and trendy. On LinkedIn, you will have professionals and B2B interactions happening. Here articles, case studies and industry news with professional, informative and credibility focused communication going out. On TikTok, it is typically Gen Z and lower, where you have got short videos, challenges and trends. These are more entertainment, authentic and culturally relevant. Email is typically cross generational. Here newsletters and personalized offers are given. These are direct, personalized and value focused, while Facebook has more of Gen X and boomers. It shares links very clearly and community content is very, very important here. Conversational and community oriented. The later version of this has become WhatsApp, where you will find the younger generation also interacting, as well as Telegram. These are also aspects which need to be thought through. If you go further granular, then you can also look at Snapchat and various other platforms, but you need to have a certain critical mass of audience members to be able to make a viable campaign therefore. Effective cross-platform communication requires more than simply resizing content for different channels. Each platform has its own culture, content expectations and communication norms, and that needs successful marketers respect and leverage as well. Your core message should remain therefore consistent. The presentation surrounding context could be optimized for the specific environment, and that is where it will get consumed. So, therefore, the core is who you are. It defines the trust and faith people will place in you. The context and setting may change, and so therefore, the stylization of your communication as well. Now, how do you get to the storytelling and authenticity part of things? Here you develop authentic brand narratives, you create stories that reflect your brand's genuine purpose and values, you feature real customer experiences to make it authentic, believable, and these testimonials and user generated content are what give other people who are attending these particular views are getting people like them, people who have actually gone through the process and come out on the other side feeling better. And you share behind the scenes content, you provide glimpses into your company culture and processes, you maintain your consistent brand voice and ensure the storytelling feels genuine across all touch points. So, modern audiences value this authenticity above spit and polish. The research shows that 86% of consumers say authenticity is critical and important, and they are using that to decide which brands they want to support. And this is where your ability to tell a story and provide a framework for delivering authentic messages connects emotionally and conveys the brand's unique value proposition. Stories aligning with audience values are delivered authentically and they create stronger brand recall and an emotional connection, and traditional feature focused messaging is not all that capable as how this approach will be. So, localized and inclusive communication also helps. When you have got language adaptation, you go far beyond the literal translation and capture totally cultural nuances of each, and you look at local expressions and incorporate regional dialects and speech patterns. So, this gives you a better texture and more believability at the ground level. Culturally, if you get the context, you acknowledge the local holidays, traditions, cultural references, and these give you visuals also to reflect regional aesthetics and cultural sensitivities, and you put in symbols which are colors and symbols and imagery which help give you more authenticity about your point of view, and this makes it inclusive. So, therefore, you include diverse representation of your visual content, and this reflects the full spectrum of your audience, and you use language that avoids any sort of assumptions or biases, and so keeps gender, ability, family structure separate from the conversation. Geographic and demographic segmentation necessitates culturally relevant messaging that respects both regional differences and inclusive principles, so that you are able to have a very nice environment in which all the communication can thrive. And localization beyond translation is something which will help you get the cultural context right. So, this will give you better appeal amongst the audiences. Now, data also comes in very handy for this entire exercise. You collect your audience data, you gather insights from multiple sources and understand audience behavior. You test your message variations, the A/B tests we have been speaking of, and determine the most effective approaches. You analyze your performance, identify some patterns and extract actionable insights from that to put in back into your content game, and refine your messaging so that you continually optimize based on performance data and fine tune as things go along. Now, when you look at consumer touch points, the omni-channel experience becomes very important. The first part is awareness. So, here social media, advertising, PR, organic search, referrals, all these factors come into play. Then when you are in the interest and desire part, you are considering. So, hence website, content marketing, reviews, comparison tools, they help push that particular part. And then finally, when the purchase happens, which is the action part, you get e-commerce, retail stores, sales calls, mobile apps all coming into play. But then there is the loyalty, advocacy or buyer's remorse. So, this happens post purchase. Here customer service, loyalty programs, social communities, re-engagement, all these things start to play a role. So, there are various consumer touch points and the omnichannel experience takes you through all of these, and these various interactions that a consumer has with the brand happens throughout their journey with it. So, these collectively define the customer experience, influencing their perception of the brand, their satisfaction and finally, their loyalty, which results as a mix of all of these things. And it is something where consumers move fluidly between physical and digital realms. So, that is why omnichannel is very important. Successful brands create cohesive experiences that maintain consistent messaging while optimizing for each touch point's unique context and purpose. The most effective communication strategies consider the full spectrum of touch points rather than treating each in isolation. Now, physical touch points are still critical, retail environments first and foremost, because here they are very powerful touch points where customers can interact directly with products and brand reps, and in-store messaging should align with digital communication if you are leveraging any unique sensory opportunities. Product packaging is the next layer. Here it serves as a crucial marketing tool and influences purchase decisions and creates post-purchase impressions also. Then there are events and experiences which help you create direct consumer interaction and create memorable brand moments. These experiences generate emotional connections that digital touchpoints often cannot replicate. So, despite digital transformation, physical touchpoints remain crucial for creating multi-sensory brand experiences, and most successful brands integrate physical and digital touchpoints into cohesive journeys that play to the strengths of each channel while maintaining consistent messaging across all interactions. Now, in terms of digital touchpoints, you have a completely expanding frontier and this is only set to grow. You have got websites and content hubs. Here you can see interactive landing pages, personalized content recommendations, integrated chat support. The list is literally endless, and with AI coming in, it will get more and more detailed as we go along. In terms of social media ecosystems, you will find that dynamic platforms offer community building, content distribution and direct consumer engagement. Here you will find platform specific content formats, community management and social commerce integrated so that you can experience and then immediately buy as well. And AI and automation is all behind this newfound automated capabilities of taking consumers through the entire process. So, AI touchpoints include chatbots, recommendation engines, voice assistants, and they create responsive brand experiences because you do not need a human agent everywhere. So, you have got conversational AI interfaces, predictive recommendations and automated personalization, which pretty much guide you through the process unless you want to get really chatty with somebody. Digital touchpoints are evolving rapidly and create both opportunities and challenges for communications professionals, and these will create valuable data and will enable personalization while requiring constant brand presence. So, we yet have to as marketers monitor all these across an expanding array of platforms and technologies. So, what will be the emerging consumer touchpoints? You will have immersive technologies, the AR, VR experiences, metaverse, all of these will be one. And you will have advanced AI interfaces which will be able to recognize emotions. So, chatbots may be able to do it, predictive assistants may be able to do it in the future. Metaverse we have spoken of, where virtual brand spaces and experiences are given in the digital worlds. IoT and connected products which will have smart devices, wearables, a variety of things that create ongoing brand relationships and they interact with you basis certain data points. And when you are planning the entire brand, the strategic foundation for this will also be crafted in a way where you will have purpose and positioning at the core always, because your core brand identity comes from it and how you are able to stand apart from the market. From here, you will have your brand architecture established between the brand entities that you create, and then from here for each you will have messaging strategy which will be consistent throughout your communications framework, and right at the top you will have brand activation which will be tactical execution, the final meeting line between brand and consumer at the ground level. Brand architecture models are also there. These are very common and very well known, and one is branded house where everything is under a major top brand name. So, if Google is the master brand, then it will have various sub brands names, sub brands under, so Google search, Google mail, Google photos, Google pay, but everything is Google. So, Google does the heavy lifting when it comes to owning the brand space, and then there is house of brands which is the exact flip. So, Procter and Gamble is one where Procter and Gamble is hardly known. You have Vicks, you have Downy, you have Ariel, you have got a variety of brands, you have got Gillette and way more other brands, but Procter and Gamble does not feature as a prominent owner of all these, and independent brands can be seen under the parent company, each fighting its own battle. Then you have got endorsed brands. So, these will be brands with parent endorsement, for example, Nescafe from Nestle, Maggi from Nestle, and a variety of other offerings from that particular organization. You will also have hybrid models where you have a combination approach for flexibility. For example, Marriott. So, JW Marriott, then Courtyard by Marriott, then Fairfield Hotels. So, you have various tiered layers and each has a Marriott property, but Marriott operates at a different level in each of these offerings. So, brand voice and tone is also something which will have to be managed across each of these segments. Your brand voice will stay consistent, but you will have flexible tonal variation. So, for example, how you are nice and formal in the office, but fun and games when you are meeting at the party. So, that is the spectrum of interactions. When the voice is there, you traits, you remain consistent across segments, and that is how people remember you. They create that brand identity. So, you may in the formal setting be more uptight, be more relaxed, informative versus entertaining depending on the setting and the requirement, inspirational versus practical, tasks and objectives in front of you, and again. So, with each audience segment by age group, by the specific psychographics, you will keep. With Gen Z, you will be more casual, and with an will have more of an authoritative tone. With traditional segments have a direct tone. So, these are again needs to have and execute, and when you are measuring the messaging effect, that different message types resonate with generational segments with engagement performance data. You will see how each differs. If you are doing emotional, practical, it works best with Gen X. If you are doing aspirational with millennials, Gen X. So, these are typical aspects you need to inspect on each variety. The future trends in audience profiling will give you recognition technology, contextual micro profiling. So, these we have already discussed in the conversation, and there will be key implementation challenges, silos and integration issues here, connected systems. So, it will make it difficult to create united unified profiles. You will have to break these silos requiring technological solutions, alignment across departments, privacy, compliance and GDPR and CCPA coming in. Organizations will need principles when you are doing balancing personalization to create truly personalized messaging for numerous audience segments. So, and that can strain the content creation resources. So, AI assisted content generation can help address this, and when you are measuring the complexity of your responses, then you may need to look at multiple channels and audience segments, creating significant analytical challenges. Again, Advanced attribution modeling and unified measurement frameworks will help address this particular complexity. So, with all of these in mind, you have to connect the dots and your audience centric strategy. Always remember, your audience is central to your strategy and so will be your messaging. So, it is about transforming that data into actionable insights and give relevant messaging and develop comprehensive understanding of your audience segments, which are demographic, psychographic, behavioral, geographic and technographic, and create the foundation so that you truly resonate. So, more on this in the following discussions, where we expand more into the audience definition and crafting the communication messaging part 3. I will see you then.